Hey nerds, I'm talking about the Changeling episode 5, This Women's Work. I'm going to review it and then get into a breakdown of the episode starting now. Welcome to Nerd Social, I'm Nathan. Hey, so I'm starting with episode 5 because I'm a bit behind. I missed the beginning of the show because I was away out of the country for work, and I got screeners for the show a little bit earlier in the week from Apple. I haven't seen any episodes past 5 yet, but going forward I should be able to cover these on the day that they come out a little bit earlier in the day because I have for the next several episodes. So the spoiler-free line for this episode provided by Apple is: the mysterious washerwoman's ominous words leave a lasting impression. Apollo comes face to face with his true me. So I started watching this show a few weeks ago with my wife, and I'm really interested in the story. It's really compelling and spooky and harrowing in parts. This episode, I guess, serves as a good pivot point for the story. We have, I think, the introduction of the possibility of supernatural elements. Still not certain from the perspective of the audience. There just could be from the subjective point of view of the people that we're seeing. Could be supernatural, but maybe not. So, but all in all, I enjoyed this. Definitely some reveals here, and hopefully getting to an understanding of where the show is going and where the real conflict is in the show. Out of a race, I think I would give this one in a road trip. Definitely worth watching, and I've watched it in preparation for this video several times, but I still would have, like, as a viewer at home, watched it over and over again because some things that information that we got earlier on in previous episodes get a payoff in this episode. So it was satisfying to go back and watch those things and see where those things are, where the payoffs were seated in previous episodes. So I'm going to try to avoid continuing to beat around the bush. So I'm going to actually get into breaking down the episode a bit. So if you're enjoying the review so far, please like, share, and subscribe. If you can only do one, please like the video. It lets other people find it. And with that, spoilers ahead. So, because I can't take screenshots of screeners, what I have is a couple photos provided to me by Apple for the review purposes and press purposes. So what I'll do is I'll talk through the different sections of this episode with the screenshots that I have. So this actually starts in Brazil with a flashback with Emma, and we get the story that was alluded to in episode 1, the picture that was taken. We actually see that story, the Norwegian guy who she ran into, and she took the picture of herself. We get a little bit more of that's not just that story, but also the story of her encounter with the woman at the waterfalls as well. We still don't really get an understanding of why she took the picture or what compelled her to take the picture, and why, as her friend said, she looked like a possessed woman when she took it. But this picture comes up at the end of this episode as well as a significant clue as to what's going on, because it ends up in Norway in a gallery, and we happen to see someone that we'll see later on in the beginning of this episode as well. So from this flashback, we jump to the present of our story with Apollo on the island with Cal, and her trying to ease him into what she understands about the world. This, again, is a little bit of a payoff from previous episodes. We get a bit of backstory about the wise woman and the fact that they have children on this island that will shock Apollo, given that he thinks that this island is made up of women who killed their children. But as Cal said, many of these women had other children as well, so they fled to this island with their other children. He also finds out with this conversation that Emma's alive, but Cal is a little cagey about where she is, and says that he can't get to her by any boat or plane or train. And at this point, Apollo's incredulous, and he says, "What is this cloak and dagger stuff?" It's interesting to see his transformation through this episode. He's skeptical throughout most of the episode, but he would like to believe that the woman that he loved didn't do something terrible. He would like to believe that what Cal is telling him is true. He's confused, I think, until the very end, where we get a bit of a reveal, not a bit of a reveal, a major reveal, as the spoiler-free logline mentions, the true enemy. In this back and forth with Cal, we also go back to the book that his father gave him, the Stolen Children book, the poem, one of his favorite books about how children are a parent's dreams made real and the fairy's favorite meal. And Cal says that the story is true, and she doesn't know why his father gave him this book, but it's the truth. So this story in the present with Cal is juxtaposed with the story Emma in the past. So we get more insight into what she was going through from her perspective. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where there's some supernatural elements if you believe her point of view is not subjective, and what she's saying and what they're presenting is actually what's happening. Because we see, even in the subtitles, if you watch this with subtitles, and I tend to watch things with subtitles, that the subtitles say that the Changeling snarls, not Brian snarls. So the Changeling is messing with her, making her feel crazy until she finds the wise women online. And at some point, she also decides to baptize Brian, thinking back to the conversation that she has with her mother-in-law about protecting the child from the evil things in the world. But that's also when Apollo is the most skeptical of her and the most protective of Brian, failing here as a husband. But honestly, the thing that's happening to Emma is fantastical. I think that he could have been more supportive in general, even if it wasn't a fantastical thing was happening, but she is mentioning that fantastic things are happening. So yeah, it's a difficult situation, and it's good to see it from this other perspective. So from there, from the flashbacks, we come back to present day, where Apollo is asked to speak to Gretta after connecting with a little girl and helping out all day and reading to the kids. And here we get to the climax of the episode, the confrontation with William Wheeler. Gretta tells Apollo that William cleaned out her bank accounts and sent her a book, the book that he bought from Apollo, and defaced the book with their child's name over and over again. So he goes and confronts William, and then William says that his real name isn't William. His real name is Kindergarten. And if you remember from the previous episode, that was the guy who said that he was going to eat a meal in honor of baby Brian boiled vegetables, which is a terrible, evil joke. So he also William seems to be completely transformed. He was a balding man and he has a full head of hair now. So this actor that's playing William seems to be a main character because he shows up in the Samuel T. Herring, so the opening credits. So a couple other things with William. He starts speaking in Norwegian when Apollo is released at the beginning of the episode. It's very unclear what's going on there. But also, if you go to even before the title sequence in the beginning, he's in the foreground before you see him at the very end of the episode as well. You see him getting the ice cream that with his daughter, and then you see him staring at the picture of Emma in the Norwegian gallery. So Norway is definitely factoring in lots of different ways here. And also, if you think back to the first episode, the prologue that preceded all other things within the present day was about a ship called the Restoration out of Norway that was undersized and shouldn't have survived the journey to America. It was an improbable and impossible crossing, and the narrator says that they made it because they had help. So yeah, I don't know if we're gonna end up back in Norway for some reason. Maybe this is where these fairies are from, but I am definitely interested in what's gonna happen next. It's interesting and compelling story. Other things that are out there is, why did his mother cut off communication with his father? I mean, the explanation that she gives is a little weird. Watching this with my wife the first week that it came out, and it's like, we thought that was very selfish of her, and maybe that's the explanation, but maybe there's also something else going on, especially since we find out in this episode that his father gave him a book that specifically speaks to a truth that is hidden from most of the people in the real world, a world beneath the world that everyone understands, similar to like Harry Potter and other stories like that, fantastical stories like that. Yeah, and I don't know if things with Emma's parents and how they died will also factor into future episodes as well. So possible that all these things that we heard about or saw in the previous episodes will factor in the future. I did go back to the first episode when we learned about Apollo's father to see if he was Norwegian in some way, but I didn't see any references to that. So maybe that's something that we'll find out later on. So definitely lots of questions, but they are slowly answering them, so I'm not frustrated, and the answers are interesting and compelling. So anyway, that is what I think, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Please comment down below, like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. All right, guys, bye.